World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history. Between 1939 and 1945, over 70 million people died. Soldiers and civilians, men, women, and children. It was a war of ideologies, a war of empires, a war of survival. But it was also a war of contradictions, allies who were not allies, enemies who were once friends, victims who became perpetrators. Welcome back. Today we are not talking about victories or heroes. We are talking about World War II, a war that shaped the modern world. And we are talking about it from a neutral standpoint. The story begins in the aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles was harsh. Germany was humiliated. Her economy was destroyed. Her people were starving. The treaty did not end the war. It planted the seeds of the next one. In the 1930s, Adolf Hitler rose to power. He promised to restore Germany's greatness. He promised to tear up the Treaty of Versailles. He promised to create a new empire. But Hitler could not have done it alone. He had supporters. He had financiers. Many of those financiers were Western. American banks, British corporations, and French investors funded German rearmament. They saw profit in the Third Reich. They lent money, and they looked away. This is not an excuse. It is a fact. The West financed the war machine that would later turn against them. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland. Britain and France declared war. But they did not fight. They watched from behind the Maginot Line. The Soviet Union signed a pact with Germany, dividing Eastern Europe between them. Then, in 1940, Germany invaded France. They captured Paris in 6 weeks. Britain stood alone, and they fought back. The Battle of Britain was the first major defeat for Hitler. The Royal Air Force defended the skies, and Germany postponed the invasion. In 1941, Hitler made a fatal mistake. He invaded the Soviet Union. He believed the Soviet army would collapse in weeks. He was wrong. The Soviet Union fought back. They lost millions, but they did not surrender. Leningrad survived, Moscow survived, Stalingrad became a graveyard for the German army. The Eastern Front was the largest and bloodiest theater of the war. Over 80% of German military casualties occurred there. The Soviet Red Army broke the back of the Nazi war machine. In 1941, the United States entered the war. Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor. America was no longer neutral. The war became truly global. The Pacific, North Africa, Italy, the Atlantic. In 1944, the Allies landed in Normandy. D-Day was a turning point. But it was not the end. The war in the East continued. The Soviet Union was pushing west. They liberated Auschwitz. They captured Berlin. The Red Army reached Berlin in April 1945. They fought street by street. They paid for every block with blood. They raised the Soviet flag over the Reichstag. Hitler was dead. Germany surrendered. The war in Europe was over. But the war had also been fought in the air. Britain and the United States bombed German cities. The bombing campaign was brutal. In February 1945, Allied bombers attacked Dresden. The city was a cultural center. not a military target. Thousands of civilians died, children, elderly, refugees. The bombing of Dresden was not a military necessity. It was a symbol. It was terror from the sky. The West called it strategic bombing. The Soviets called it terror bombing. Historians still debate its justification. The truth is simple. Civilians died, and they did not need to. The war ended, but it left a scar. Europe was divided. The Cold War began, and the world lived in fear. The Soviet Union had lost over 27 million people, more than any other nation. They had paid the highest price. The United States and Britain had also lost millions, but they had not suffered occupation. They had not seen their cities destroyed. The war changed everything. It ended colonialism. It created the United Nations. It gave us the atomic bomb. And it taught us a lesson, that war is never clean, that victory has a price, and that the innocent always pay. World War II is still with us. It is in our politics. It is in our borders. It is in our memory. The next time you hear about World War II, remember, it was not just a war. It was a tragedy that we must never forget. If you want more stories about history's greatest conflicts, hit subscribe, because understanding war is the first step toward peace. I will see you in the next history, maybe about Cold War. What historical conflict should I uncover next? Comment below.